بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Welcome to episode 5 of the series Between Two Extremes. In this episode we'll take the issue of Salah and how much a person should raise their voice in Salah. When they're praying, how high or low should their voice be? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَلَا تَجْهَرْ بِصَلَاتِكَ وَلَا تُخَافِتْ بِهَا. Don't raise your voice too much in Salah and don't lower it too much. وَابْتَغِ بَيْنَ ذَلِكَ سَبِيلًا. And seek out in between the two a path. Seek out between those two extremes a path. Between raising your voice too much and lowering your voice too much, seek out a middle path in between the two. So even when it comes to our voice and how loud or not we are in reciting Quran in Salah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us to take the middle path, to be in between those two extremes. One time the Prophet Muhammad went out at night and he passed by Abu Bakr, who was praying, and he was lowering his voice. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was praying with a very low voice. And then the Prophet continued and passed by Umar radiallahu anhu, and Umar was also praying and his voice was loud. He was praying and reciting Quran with a loud voice. And so when the two of them, Abu Bakr and Umar, may Allah be pleased with them both, met and they were with the Prophet Muhammad, they met with the Prophet. He said to Abu Bakr, "O Abu Bakr, I passed by you and you were praying with a low voice." And so Abu Bakr said, "Ya Rasulullah, the one who I'm praying to, who I'm calling upon, has heard me. قَدْ أَسْمَعْتُ مَنْ نَاجَيْتُ. The one who I'm praying to, who I'm calling upon, has heard me." And the Prophet ﷺ said to Umar, "I passed by you and you were praying and you were raising your voice. You're praying with a loud voice." So Umar radiallahu anhu said, "Ya Rasulullah, uqidul wasnan," to wake up the one who's sleeping but in light sleep. So if someone is not in deep sleep and they'd hear, in other words, Umar is saying if they are not in too deep of sleep and they're in light sleep and they hear him reciting Quran praying, they'd wake up and remember to pray and they'd get up and pray themselves as well. Uqidul wasnan wa atrudul shaitan. And I will drive away the shaitan. Again, Umar is explaining his reasoning why he's praying and reciting Quran with a loud voice, just like Abu Bakr explained his reasoning. Why is he praying with a low voice? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has heard him. He's calling upon Allah. Allah has heard him. He doesn't need to raise his voice for Allah to hear. Umar is explaining his reasoning, that he's reciting Quran in his prayer in loud voice so that people who are not in deep sleep would wake up, hear him recite, remember, and wake up and pray themselves, and to drive away the shaitan. So the Prophet ﷺ said, "O Abu Bakr, raise your voice a little bit," and told Umar, "Lower your voice a bit." So again, indicating what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in that verse. We shouldn't raise our voice too much in Salah when reciting Quran. We shouldn't lower it too much, but rather seek out in between the two a path. Seek out a middle path in between those two extremes. Barakallahu fikum, jazakumullah khaira, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. By the way, there's a very important point of benefit that we'll mention before we wrap up and end this episode. When it comes to the names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we took in the first episode, discussed that issue. But we see even from this, subhanAllah, there's so much points of benefit from all these stories of the Prophet ﷺ and his companions. But we see from this particular story, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu said, قَدْ أَسْمَعْتُ مَنْ نَاجَيْتُ. He said, the one whom I'm calling upon has heard me. Again, confirming or affirming the attribute for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of being the all-hearing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all-hearing. He hears. So that's one of the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we see that this is what the companions radiallahu anhum believed in. This is what they believed in. They believed that Allah was the all-hearing. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hears. That He hears us. That He hears everything. That He was all-seeing, that He sees everything. And they didn't try to misinterpret that, and they knew exactly what that meant. Now, that being said, they didn't ask, how does Allah hear? How does Allah see? They didn't compare Allah's hearing to our hearing, but rather they affirmed the meaning of that. They affirmed these attributes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they believed in their meanings. And as you can see, the practical implications as well of believing in these attributes for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in their daily lives, in their actions, in their acts of worship. But at the same time, they did not compare Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or His attributes to us or our attributes or the attributes of any of His creation. So just a point of benefit that we can take from this story, even though it's a general story about them praying and how high or low they were raising their voice in salah. Barakallahu fikum, jazakumullah khaira, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.